we are sharing something that we're binging on these days. I'm watching Reservation Dogs, and I see Cobra Kai is up there. I'm also gonna paste into that chat the link to the winter session Google folder that has this slide deck. It has the calendar and has some other things that you might find useful, including a recording of this session and the last session, so that if you forget something or you just want to get these ideas back in your head, you'll have the recording in that folder at the end of the day. And I'm seeing White Lotus. All right, Arthur, I like that one. We'll wait just one more minute to let the stragglers show up. Please participate in that slide. Johnny, I'm looking to hear what you're binging on these days. Oh, Johnny, I've never heard of She-Hulk. I'll have to look that one up. All right, Carrie Ann just showed up. Carrie Ann, I'm putting a link into the chat for you, and I'll do it for William as soon as he comes in, and AJ's here. All right. Allison, that does not sound very exciting. For those of you who just came in, I am putting a link in the chat. That's the link to the Google folder for all these winter session documents, including the slide deck and the recording that we are doing right now. I think we got a good group, so we're going to start. Welcome to the winter session kickoff. This will be pretty straightforward and pretty quick. We won't be using the whole hour. We're going to, let's go to the next slide. We're going to introduce ourselves. We'll share the timeline, some information about immediate access. We'll talk very briefly about our vision for online courses. I know that most of you are main campus instructors, and I know you also probably instructed courses during the pandemic, but we'd still like to share our vision for online courses at Global Campus. Maybe there'll be some things that stoke your thinking. We will go over course preparation and facilitation, what that might look like for you, what you want to do before winter session starts. We'll also mention a little bit about Canvas analytics, which are important because these courses move so fast, so you do want to know if a student's not engaging. We have some new winter session tips and tricks, and then we'll have an opportunity to share our best practices at the end. Next slide. I'm Brandon. Most of you know me from running the winter session last year with Terry. Our senior director is Lindsay Vance. You also know John and Sarah. Lena is new to the team as of a couple months ago. Lena, would you introduce yourself and then pass it over to Johnny to introduce himself and say his opening words?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our winter session kickoff. My name is Lina Hariri, and I'm an instructional technologist at Global Campus. As Brandon mentioned, I joined the team 2 months ago, but I have been an SDSU Foundation employee for about 15 years as a program specialist and language instructor. I'll be working with you this winter and help you, hopefully, with your technology issues that are related to Canvas and Zoom. Welcome. Johnny?
Hey everyone, I see a lot of returning faces, so welcome back. For anyone who is new, I'm Johnny Holt. I'm the program director for Winter Session. I have been with Winter Session since it first incepted again about 5 years ago. We're in our 5th iteration after being dormant from about 2002 through 2019. So we're really excited. It's grown every year. I really appreciate appreciate everyone's willingness to chip in and to do this relatively difficult task of teaching the course in such a short time period. But we've had such a phenomenal response. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I handle more of the administrative functions, so I'll be working with our operations team to get your contracts out, to make sure your classes are set up properly, to make sure students don't have any issues with registration. So I'm a little bit separate from the instructional design portion, but I do want you to know that I am here. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Johnny. You'll probably ask Lena or myself a question over the next couple months, and we are probably going to have to say, let's ask Johnny about that. Johnny knows everything winter session. Next slide. We're going to start this kickoff with a reflection. There is a Padlet screen ready for you. That link is at the bottom. It's bit.ly/factreflect. And Lena will put that into the chat for a quick reference. On that, please click the plus button on the bottom right of the screen, and then share what were your biggest challenges in facilitating your winter session course last year. What advice would you give to someone new? Because we do have 4 new winter session instructors this year. And also, if you are one of those 4 new instructors, what are you most concerned about with winter session? We will click over to that Padlet, and you'll notice some lovely music when Lena moves us there. Let's take 2 minutes. About 1 more minute. 1 more minute. All right. So I'm seeing that on this board, I'm seeing that keeping students on track is a big issue. I see that assessment's an issue. Is there anyone who'd be willing to expand upon what they just shared out? Or perhaps some of the ways that you have been successful in keeping students on track?
Arthur would like to
Arthur,
share. Yeah.
Hi. So this is my second time teaching the winter class. I'm a journalism instructor on the main campus. So my first time, some of the obstacles I ran into were, students were really taken aback how quickly things were moving. And this is, of course, to be expected, I think. And so my advice, what I found to be useful was the obvious things like planning ahead, but communication to me was key. Almost daily communication with students, reminders, engaging them, telling them it's okay, but just helping them manage their time, so that they can stay on top of things with your communication. So I found, again, communication virtually daily, it was almost necessary to have a daily communication with them, kept things on track.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? I'd love for someone to talk about their assessment and what they did to make assessment easier. Vinod.
Brandon, I think, okay, from what I'm understanding, your question is assessment of the course learning outcomes, or I think you're looking at assessment of student success.
Both of those, more so grading. It's tough for you as an instructor to do all the grading in 15 days. What are you doing to make it easier on yourself?
Well, it's I think it was Arthur who mentioned about time management for students. I think I also had to manage my time in terms of grading and have to dedicate. I mean, grading probably will take place on a daily basis, and that grading part is quite critical because when we talk about communication, providing detailed feedback also helps, because emails sometimes go into the ether world and no one sees it, but this Canvas allows you to provide that. So I think communication, combined with detailed feedback, combined with time management for both the instructor and the student, dedicating a couple of hours or more perhaps every day to just focus on those components. I guess that's all I can say in terms of answering your question.
No, that's very helpful. And to piggyback on top of that, I think it's worth it to remind ourselves that this is a 15 or 16-week course stuck into 15 days. And so we're expecting students to do, a week's worth of work and engagement in one day, which also kind of translates to instructors doing a week's worth of grading and engagement and posting announcements in one day as well. Lena, let's go back to the slide deck so I can talk about our timeline. Here you see our timeline. From today, I would recommend spending a couple weeks to update your syllabus and to connect with Syra Marie at the bookstore about immediate access, if immediate access is available for your text. And then spend about a month revising your course. And some things to focus on if you're not doing big revisions are changing your due dates, running the link validator, and checking your accessibility report. Later on in this kickoff, Lena will be talking about the link validator and the accessibility report. Next slide. Like I said, email Syra Marie. She just reached out to me just a few minutes ago about something regarding winter session. So she is ready to take your winter session orders. I believe that Syra Marie is now meeting with instructors for about 10 or 15 minutes if they want to use immediate access. So expect there to be a Zoom meeting between you and her if you're going to use immediate access. Next slide. So I know you're from main campus, but I'd like to introduce you to Global Campus's vision for online courses. We're always hoping to have strong connections and community building, and that happens by you as the instructor having a presence. That's through your welcome video, that's through frequent announcements, which might be daily announcements. We also encourage student-to-student interaction. If you don't have discussion boards in your course or group projects, then use me and Lena to try to get those into your courses. And of course, you're going to want to provide frequent feedback like Arthur was talking about. You got to stay on top of that. Next slide, please. The second area of vision for our online courses is purpose and inspiration. Just the fact that you're offering courses during winter session shows me that you are passionate instructors who are trying to serve your students and give them all the opportunities you can to complete their degrees. If you can fit authentic assessments into such a short class, that would be awesome. And always aligning your assessments with the learning objectives. And then finally, the third part of our vision has to do with, next slide. It has to do with high expectations and high support. Generally, we want these courses to be equivalent in rigor to the main campus courses. We do know that you are going to make some concessions, like if in your main campus course you have a long project that students work on, it might not translate to a 15-day course. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you as the instructional designer to rethink your course if there are things that don't happen on a 15-day timescale. And of course, I'm here to help with clear and logical design. All of you who are returning probably have a pretty nice structure to your course, especially if you used our template last year. And then we do want to make sure that they are accessible and inclusive. And that accessibility report that Lena's going to talk about later is one step towards doing that. Next slide. All right, we're going to get into preparing your course and facilitation. It makes sense to start with the calendar because that's what you're going to be revising your course around. This is the calendar that Johnny set up for us. You'll see that it spans December and January. On this calendar, we do have some holidays that are noted. The most important thing when choosing your due dates is to not have any due dates on those holidays. We can't expect students to turn things in on those dates. You'll notice also that December 28th is reserved for Governor's Day. We aren't 100% sure that Governor's Day, that day that he gives off to the state employees, we're not sure that that's going to be on the 28th, but we have a hunch that it will be there. Johnny has some great hunches. I'd say Johnny's about 85% sure on this. Am I about accurate on that, Johnny?
Yeah, that's, I would say, yeah, 85, 90%. We generally don't know until between the 12th and the 16th, what day that's going to be. So it is a little challenging, but we can kind of guess based on trends over the last couple of years when those days generally fall. They try to keep them blocked together with other holiday days. It's honestly, unfortunately, the best we can do until we really get into December. So it's a bit of a crapshoot, but that's what we've got right now.
Worst case scenario, you plan for the 28th, and maybe a week before it could turn out to be a different date where you just switch a due date on something. Next slide. Lena's going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to prepare your courses, starting with the syllabus. Lena?
So yes, I'm going to keep my camera off because internet is still slow today. So how to prepare for these courses? First of all, we're going to talk about syllabus. So if you have your own syllabus from the previous course, download it and update it to reflect the new dates. Once you're done, go to the syllabus page, remove the old one and replace it with the revised one. Make sure student can print it out. For course material, review the textbook that you are going to use for the course and any file or article that you will be using, making sure that the links are still working if linked to external resources. And for the assignment, revise the assignment and update the due dates to avoid SDSU observed holidays and to have an adequate assessment load at the end. During the course, how to provide this sense of community and support. It's important to adopt the mindset. Be a coach. Your course is designed and polished in advance to free you to adopt the coaching role rather than building essential course content. So take advantage of it. Also be present for the student. Let them know that you are there for them and available for their help and support. Participate in the discussions, give them positive feedback, and try to encourage them, highlighting, for example, helpful or thoughtful conversations. Keep your conversational tone professional and friendly at the same time, and encourage them to use research and include them in conversations and assignment, more like an expert in the subject. And all this information, you can find them on bit.ly online fact tips. Another thing is for the community and support is to take specific action. Address accommodations in the first day or two. How are you going to help them if they have accessibility issues, if they need extra help? Post announcement throughout the course duration. Remind them of assignment, due dates, holidays, exam, office hours, how to be contacted. All this information are very helpful for them. Participate in the discussions, add your ideas, try to make the conversation going. And grade assignment and quizzes as soon as you can. Don't wait until the last week to grade them all at once. Students love to know how they are doing in class and become anxious if their grades were left until the end. There's something in Canvas called course analytics or new analytics. And this is a feature in Canvas to help instructors know how their students are doing in class. You can use that feature to support the student by identifying the ones who have minimal activities, for example, or not logging in the first day. You can email them and check the reasons behind their inactivity. New analytics can also show you the ones who are consistently late in submitting their assignment or discussion. For these students, reach out to them and offer them additional support. Another way is to analyze the grades by assignment and figuring out if what is required from them is well presented and understood. Maybe there might be a need for more practice or module modification or clearer summaries. This can be told by the analytics. After the course, now the course is done. Send the final announcement to the class, thanking them for attending the course and being engaged in discussions and participating, and encouraging them in their next step, whether it's further studying or a career that they are pursuing. Download the gradebook and take notes of what went well and what needed to be changed for the next one. Put these changes back again in the development shell so you don't have to memorize it or miss it. Of course, work with us, the Global Campus team, on the incompletes. And finally, post the grades using my.sdsu, and remember that the last day to post it is January 13. For tips and tricks, here are some tips and tricks to help you during this session. Once you upload your content, check for broken links using the link validator that you see it here. And this is going to be in the setting section of the course. Also, make sure that your files and pages are accessible by using the accessible report, and it can be found here on the navigation menu of the course. Check the assignment and see whether making certain ones discussion board instead of keeping them just regular assignment. Is there a group learning that the student might benefit from participating in conversations? And finally, SpeedGrader has efficient tools that help you record media and add speech as tagged in the lower section assignment comments. Use it to be more efficient. Brandon, would you like to add anything regarding this part?
Yeah, I really want to reinforce the first bullet point that this is an opportunity right now in the next month or so to rethink your assignments. We got to make this so that it's manageable for you and the students. And it seems like utilizing discussion boards for assignments that could be public, where students could have group learning, would really lessen your assessment load. It could also be very engaging for students. And when there's things like that, it gets the students coming back to the course more often and with more frequency. And, you know, you mentioned in your reflection that you want to keep students on track. Well, having things like that get them to come to Canvas are important to keeping it on track. And the second bullet point, one of the ways to keep your students engaged is by you having a presence. And I mentioned having a presence through a welcome video and through posting announcements. Well, if you want to give concise feedback on their work and also have a presence, using the record media feature in Canvas it's a no-brainer. Like, to have you speak to the student and tell them what you're thinking about the work that they submitted is huge. Let's go to the next slide. Some of you might be saying, yeah, these are great ideas and I want to put them into action. Well, those shells, if you read my email to you a few days ago, the shells for your live courses haven't been created yet. Part of the transition of the system means that we're waiting for those to be created. They'll probably be created hopefully by the end of the first week of November. At that time, I will follow whatever instructions you gave me on that Google survey that I sent out. If you didn't have a chance to do that Google survey, I'm going to put that link that's at the bottom of this slide into the chat. This is the survey I sent out, I think 2 weeks ago. It asks you, if this is your first time teaching winter session, it asks you, do you have an old course that you want put into the new shell? This is the information on this Google survey is what's going to tell me and Lena what to do once they're available. You just got some new ideas presented to you. I'm curious if there are some challenges that you still are facing or some new ideas that you might want to try out. So I'm going to step back and open up the instructor roundtable for all of you instructors to share your concerns, what you're looking forward to, or just trade best practices. I'm also open to general questions if there are any general questions about winter session. Peter.
Yeah, this is a question to Lena. In the first slide, Lena, you mentioned that it's advised that within the first couple of days that we assist students with their accommodations. Does that mean that the student success center, whatever it's called, the SASC, will not be helping us with student accommodations? Because in a regular semester, I frequently get notifications from the Student Ability Success Center informing me that a student is requesting an accommodation, and would I review it and accept that? Will that not happen during winter session? I don't recall. I did teach this last year and I don't recall what happened.
Folks, is it okay
Peter,
if I take this one? Sorry.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, I'm
No problem. I
Lindsay.
was going to tell you.
Just popping in for a minute, just to check in and see everyone. So the reason that we really emphasize being proactive, short answer, yes, SASE will help the Student Ability Success Center make the accommodation. However, you know, winter session is so short, and sometimes those accommodations can take a couple days. And in the timeline of winter session, a couple days is the equivalent of maybe a couple weeks of material for your stateside classes. So that's really why we try to get as proactive as possible. So if an accommodation does need to come in, then we have a shorter road to travel many times for the Student Ability Success Center to get those materials in a state that is accessible for the individual.
And I'll add to that. Most of you know that at Global Campus, we have some wonderful course templates. And in our course templates, we do have a learner profile survey that asks students about the accommodations that they might need. So if you want to open up your winter session course a few days early or You could open up a week early and just make that survey available to students. I'd be more than happy to put that learner profile survey into your winter session course when the time comes.
So are you saying that students simply self-identify as requiring accommodation, say double time on tests, and I just accept that without any kind of medical documentation or anything like that?
You can ask them to provide the documentation. My understanding is you could ask them to have SASE send you the documentation. And you can wait until you have that to provide it, but it certainly is in everybody's interest that you know that as soon as possible, even if the documentation takes a day or two to come to you. I believe in creating student advocates, so that is one way that we can get students to advocate for themselves. And you can look at those profile surveys and reach out to the students, say, hey, I see this in your survey, yet I haven't received anything from SASE. Could you please have them send it to me? Are there other questions or things you're excited about? William.
Yeah, hi. One of the things that I struggled with last year, and I anticipate struggling again, so I'd appreciate if anyone could give me hints or suggestions on how to deal with this, is my last final for this current semester is on Friday the 16th, and that's the second day of the winter session. And effectively, 1 week is 1 month of time. So 2 days into the winter session, I'm still working on my other courses and having to grade them and all the other stuff. So are there any suggestions, ideas, advice on how to juggle these two things simultaneously, and not have anything fall through the cracks? Because my intention is going to be on getting my students across the finish line in my fall courses for those first 2 days of the winter session. And my office hours and all that other stuff and my grading. And I find it extremely challenging to be running two different courses with different start times, one's finishing and one's starting at the same time, and giving them the proper attention they both deserve.
Elizabeth, do you have a response?
No, I actually have a separate question.
Anybody have an idea for William to juggle fall ending and winter session starting?
Just deal with it, right? Suck it up. And yeah, I mean, it's if there's anything I would change is I wouldn't start winter session on the 15th. I'd wait till the 19th, and that would just make life so much easier. Well, but then it's even 2 less days we have.
You know what? I do have a recommendation. You will know what your winter session course looks like within the next month. You'll know. So it might be worth it for you to forecast the issues that students are going to come to in the first few days of winter session. You might even consider pre-writing those announcements that you want to send out on the first couple of days. So whatever you can do beforehand that makes your life easier, I would recommend. Johnny, you have your hand up.
No, let's go to Elizabeth first, and then I want to respond to Carrie Ann's question, but I want to make sure we get through all of them, all of the questions.
Well, thank you. And I was actually thinking about how I would respond to William's question, and only to say that when I've taught for winter session and sessions past, it's been helpful for me to have the mindset that I'm going to be extraordinarily busy mid-December, and with that overlap with ending fall and beginning winter. And I've even had to tell family members, because that's also a time of year where a lot of us have personal events and different holidays and everything related to that. I've had to actually set firm boundaries in my personal life with when I'm available, when I'm not, because I want to make sure to do a fantastic job with finishing up fall as well as starting winter strong. So that's, I guess, my 2 cents on that. And my question is actually just to get a sense of how people handle, especially now where we are with, knock on wood, I'm not jinxing it, but we're in a different phase of the pandemic now. I guess something I've struggled with is how accommodating to be when students have reported that they've been sick, especially when they've reported that they have COVID. And so I'm wondering what other people do. Do you require a physician's note, for example, to extend a deadline or to change an exam day? I mean, I guess I'm just looking for advice on that because I'm still struggling with how to be fair and how to, how to be fair, but to also maintain course integrity. So I'm open to suggestions. I guess if anyone has a specific guideline they have, if a student tells them they have COVID, do you ask for documentation? Do you extend deadlines?
I think things are moving so fast that I would just, you'd have to sort of take the word for it. I think, I mean, in a normal semester, you can start to ask for documentation and all that, but I think with the winter session, I think you just have to take the word for it and remind them that, the semester's still moving. We're still moving along. If you're going to be sick, unfortunately, you might consider, I don't know, not taking the class. I mean, if you don't think you can, keep your mental and physical health up, that's the priority. You remind them of that, obviously. But I think I would just say, you know what, if you're sick, I'll take your word for it, and I'll just make accommodations, and we'll just figure it out. And we'll deal with it. I don't know if that helps, but
A couple other things to consider when you look at that calendar, with weekends in there and with those, 4 or 5 holidays right in the middle. There is actually some space in there to be sick, and hopefully it would fall on those days. Also, Johnny, do you know what the incomplete policy is for winter session courses?
The incomplete policy is the exact same as it would be on main campus. So students are able to do that, and with professors, instructors' approval, we will be able to get that to our registrar and our registration team, which will be working, all the normal days where we're 24, or a 12-month a year. So we'll certainly be here. One thing I would also note to Arthur's point is that winter session students opt in. And what we've found over the last couple of years, and Elizabeth, I think you've certainly been teaching your courses for winter session for quite some time now. These are students who are highly motivated. This is not something they're required to do. This is not something they have, that is kind of in their normal parameters. So the students who do come in generally are highly motivated and highly engaged. So we see a little bit less of those. I don't know how to phrase this other than saying most of the students, if they're going to come to you and say, look, I've got COVID, they probably have COVID. These are students who are paying out of pocket. They're students who are motivated. They're trying to do something different. They're trying to get ahead. They're not generally inclined, from our experience so far, at least in terms of our surveys and our research, to really be, out of that, out of that category. So yeah, I mean, I know that can be difficult. That can make things very difficult, and it might require a, case by case consideration. But it's relatively less likely, I would say, I would guess. And again, this goes back to our survey research, that they're making this up. It's more likely, especially if they've spent $900 out of pocket, that they're going to do this and they're going to pay that and then flake. But things do happen. We definitely understand.
Thank you, everyone.
Johnny, do you want to continue and answer Carrie Ann's question? And if
Yeah.
there's any questions from instructors, throw it in the chat and we'll answer them after Johnny speaks to Carrie
Yeah,
Ann.
absolutely. Winter registration is due to open on Monday. That is contingent on, I'm sure many of you are aware, the giant PeopleSoft conversion has kind of thrown a wrench into everything. Winter session is the very first term that is going to go entirely into PeopleSoft. And it's a little bit of a cumbersome procedure that we've been given by main campus. It's a little bit odd, but the plan is to open registration on Monday. So you will start seeing hopefully course populations by the end of next week, and you'll start seeing students register, things like that. Carrying your question about the whether the course will run, that is something that I will work with you individually on. Generally, we will see, especially, this is a little bit later than I wanted to open registration. Normally, we open right after Labor Day. This is very late for us, but out of our hands. We will be able to make decisions by early December about whether the course will run. If you are concerned, I would recommend reaching out to me. We generally shoot for about 10 students at a minimum to make it worthwhile both for the students and the instructor, because the pay scale is based on enrollment as well as faculty rank. But what I do want to stress is that I will not make that decision without consulting you. It will not be a unilateral decision, oh, we're just not going to run this. It will be a discussion, and I'll be monitoring registrations daily. That is something that's really important to us. But we've had courses run with as few as 4 students because it was kind of a trial run, see how the course goes. Great, I'm happy for that. We have courses that fill up, and I'm happy for that too. But ultimately, the decision whether to move forward with the course is going to be yours. All of the courses are financially soluble, which is what I'm held responsible for based on the salary scale. So whatever we need to do, I'm happy to do, but I will not make any decisions without consulting with you and getting your input and getting your final decision. So please know that that's really important to me. And I know it's one of those kind of things that feels very nebulous and off in the distance. But if you have any questions, if you have concerns, email me. Let me know what you're seeing. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm happy to talk through it. I'm happy to talk through both budgets and finances and whatever it is. We want to make sure that we're supporting our students, of course, but I want to make sure that you're supported as well. So yeah, that's the most important. And then the last question, how early can we open the course on Canvas? I'm going to let Brandon take most of that. The only thing I will say is, if you are able to post at least a syllabus and some basic welcome info early, about a week early, that helps. Not saying that anybody's going to have anything due, and Brandon can provide more specifics, but it really does help the students not freak out. And that's a big thing.
Yeah, especially if students need to purchase a hard copy textbook. If you're not opening your course until the day that classes start, it might take 5 days to get their text. So they really do need the syllabus and textbook information about a week early. If you want to open up earlier, that's up to you. If you want to allow them access to main module content, that's up to you. But I would like to put it out there that syllabus is available to students a week early. I can't require that, but that's my recommendation. Let's go to the next slide. Johnny mentioned how we can support you. Well, we can support you if you send me an email, or you can send the whole ID team the email, an email at id.global. We do have drop-in hours, which some of you have visited before. These drop-in hours consist of anywhere from 3 to 8 instructional designers in the room. And you can ask us for whether it's ID support or IT support. Of course, if you do need IT support, we do have Canvas 24/7 help. You get to that through the icon at the lower left on your Canvas screen. If you have never used the Canvas help, I highly recommend it for any Canvas issues. SDSU pays to have this service, and you'll get somebody on the phone in under a minute helping you out. So don't think that it's like sit on hold forever. Like you'll be off of the phone within 5 minutes with a solution. So use that Canvas help button. It's great. And like we've said to you before, all these materials, including the slide deck and the recording, are available through that Google folder at bit.ly/SDSU Winter 2023. We have a question. Hassan, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, my question was regarding opening up the course earlier. Have you done any surveys to find out what the students' take is on opening the courses earlier? Because they are also finishing up their fall semester, right? They are finishing up their final projects, they're preparing for the final exam. So what kind of pressure does that exert on students, knowing that the winter faculty is already posting? Now they have to manage 2 semesters. Do you have any survey data that indicates they like it, they don't like it?
We don't have any survey data, but we have plenty of stories from students who didn't know they had to buy a textbook until the day that classes started, and that really was difficult for them. My recommendation for you would be to open up the course and only make the syllabus available and post an announcement to the students that say, I'm opening the course just so you can see what's ahead and plan your vacation, plan your winter break, and to order the book if you have to order the book. So being explicit by posting an announcement is the best thing you can do, so that you can actually take away the stress by telling them you don't engage with the content yet, but to make your life easier and less stressful, here's a syllabus to plan.
Okay. And with the immediate access, is the cost going to be higher than buying a textbook? I know that SDSU is running different programs where you can, sign up and then pay a predetermined amount to access your textbook. And sometimes the students have mentioned that the predetermined amount is greater than the amount they would be paying. So I'm not sure how that works.
That would be a great question for Syra Marie. What I have come to understand is that the bookstore makes sure that immediate access prices for digital text is lower than anything else that can be found. That's their promise, and if that's not the case, then you or the student should make them aware that that's not the case, because that's one of the selling points on it. The other selling point on immediate access is that students have a grace period before they actually have to buy the digital textbook, so that if they happen to drop the course after a day or two, they're not spending money on the textbook.
Thank you.
Sure. If there's no more questions, that's what we had planned for you today. You can always email us if you have personal questions, and I just want to remind you that we are here to help you, and the best way that we can help you is by knowing what you want us to put into your live shell once they're available in early November. Anything to add, Johnny or Lena, before we sign off? All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.